is up, all of you Ugnaughts and Jawas out there, and welcome to the finale breakdown of Ahsoka Season 1. This is Mando Talk. I am your host, Caleb Keller, and I cannot wait to talk about this one with each and every single one of you. Thank you so much, everyone, for following along this season of Star Wars television. I am so appreciative. The only plug I want to make before we dive in, because there's a lot for us to dissect and understand before at the end of this episode, I'll give my review because I'm still kind of working through it. So as we talk about it, I'll be able to formulate my rating and everything like that. But the plug that I wanted to make, next week, don't forget we're doing a full-on season reviewed podcast episode featuring not only myself, but DJ Foster and Zach Horvath, where we just get to talk about the entire season, full-on spoiler discussion, not really having an agenda, just some things, maybe big ideas to kind of start the discussion, and then it's just going to flow. So it's going to be a great opportunity just to hang out as Star Wars fans. So make sure you're subscribed on whatever platform you are listening to this podcast on currently. That way, you for sure do not miss next week's podcast episode. Okay, that's the only plug I wanted to get into, because I want to talk about Ahsoka Part 8, the finale titled The Jedi, the Witch, the Warlord, directed by Rick Famuyiwa, and of course, written by Dave Filoni. So, let's get into it. This is one that we have to go through linearly to make sure I don't miss anything, to make sure you didn't miss anything, and I'm sure there's still probably going to be some details that I may have missed. Of course, I do this right after the watch. We are sitting right here in my living room on the couch. This is where I just watched the thing, but we're going to do our best to break this down from a fundamental standpoint. Here we go. First thing that occurs in the episode. Thrawn is notified. The cargo transfer is completed by Morgan. The Eye of Sion is to be brought to lock onto the Chimera for hyperspace travel. Morgan believes there's little the Jedi can do at this point, and Thrawn pushes back against that idea because he knows better. Thrawn has been through it. He has seen that the moment you think that you have knocked the Jedi out, they are still right there, ready to go, and they're going to get back in the mix. So even though Elsbeth thinks, okay, we got this on lock, Thrawn reminds her, nah, they're coming, and we got to be prepared. I really enjoyed that, really dug that. Next up in the episode, Morgan is thanked for her service and is granted the gift of shadows. She pledges herself to the sisterhood, to the magics, and to the old ways, to abandon her old life for the new one, her loyalty, and her life. The Great Mother lays her hands on Morgan, and she has green eyes and marks on her face momentarily. She appears to be granted the title of Great Mother now and is gifted the blade of Talzin. Alarms blare and 2 TIE fighters soar out of the Chimera. Now, backtracking. This was eerie. I was not expecting to get this deep into witchcraft in this show, but I should not be surprised at all. I loved this. I loved these moments for sure. I loved the live action introduction to the Blade of Talzin. Now, that is not new, though. Animation fans, Clone Wars fans in particular, you have seen that before. And it was really cool seeing that translate to live action. And it's cool that you get to see it. If you haven't seen Clone Wars, it's essentially, really, this episode does a great job of explaining it. It's a blade that's able to withstand lightsabers, that's able to get these witches in the mix with Jedi, with Sith. All really cool, wild thing. So again, loved this decision. Loved this moment. Okay, then we go to our heroes. Ezra is constructing a lightsaber with Huyang. Huyang questions who taught him how to build a lightsaber after Ezra is ignoring his guidance and disorganizing his material, and Sabine Wren walks in to name-drop Kanan Jarrus, who was Ezra's master. Huyang reveals to Ezra that he knew Kanan, formerly known as Caleb Doom, and he was a very curious and shy boy. Ezra completes making a blue lightsaber that looks very similar to Kanan's. Now, last week I was very critical of the fact that Ezra did not use a lightsaber, and I am so glad that we got this moment and we got later moments of Ezra using this lightsaber. That is so cool. Of course, Jedi still like to use these lightsabers, so I like that we still have that in the mix, but obviously we got to point out that this hilt looked just like Kanan. And I don't know if it was legit a Kanan Jarrus 2.0 hilt or if it was just heavily inspired, but man, what an emotional moment. What a cool moment for us Rebel fans that have seen Ezra and Kanan go through it together. Very honorable of him to honor his master in that way. That is a very big deal. I really, really, really loved that. Okay, let's see what's next here. Ezra asks what happened between Ahsoka and Sabine, and Huyang reveals Ahsoka became afraid Sabine was training to become a Jedi for the wrong reasons after the Great Purge of Mandalore, which killed her family. Ahsoka feared Excuse me, I lost my place here. Ahsoka feared Sabine would become dangerous because of this, potentially unlocking her full potential and seemingly taking revenge. Now, I love the connection to the Great Purge. Of course, if you have been watching The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, the Great Purge is something that has been heavily alluded to and visited in those shows. So just mentioning that allows these series to feel very connected, feel very much in the mix. It gives it that connected storytelling model that they're going for. So that was very much appreciative. But it also gives very heavy insight behind why Ahsoka and Sabine have such this mixed background with each other. Like throughout this season, they've been talking about a falling out that these two went through, and we had never really quite hit the nail on the head with it. But now we do. We get it. Ahsoka was afraid of Sabine just fully going revenge mode, and we know what that means whenever a Jedi or whenever a Force user hits that revenge mode status. They turn to the dark side. And obviously, Ahsoka is very fearful of that because her master, the Jedi that she loved the most, did that, essentially. So obviously, she's fearful of it. Obviously, that would lead to a falling out. So I very much appreciated that dialogue there. Ahsoka confronts Sabine about willingly coming with the villains to Peridia. Sabine apologizes and Ahsoka says, I know. She relates, as most people didn't understand her decisions she's made in the past, but that her master always stood by her when no one else did. She wants to do the same thing for Sabine. That was really cool. Again, I like pulling in Anakin into this with dialogue because Anakin is such a vital part of Ahsoka's journey. And yes, Ahsoka, you finally realized it. Anakin was right there supporting you with every decision you made as a youngling, as a Padawan. That wasn't necessarily always the best decision, but Anakin always supported you. He even supported you against the Jedi Council. Again, that is a Clone Wars story. Go check it out if you haven't done so. So yes, it would make very much sense for Ahsoka to learn that lesson that, okay, even though maybe Sabine does some things that I don't necessarily agree with, I got to be all in with supporting her and with having her back. And that was just refreshing and a very aha kind of moment and just very enjoyable for sure. Okay. Ahsoka asks if Sabine has been keeping up with her training. Sabine says she feels more confident with her lightsaber. Ahsoka says being a Jedi isn't about wielding a lightsaber, to train her mind and body to trust in the Force. And we're definitely going to come back to that quote eventually. Like, essentially, that was there to tease you that Sabine was potentially going to do more than just twirl the lightsaber around a few times in this episode. All right, the TIEs arrive, which destroy the stabilizers of Ahsoka's ship. Ezra and Ahsoka force lift the ship from falling to the ground. Huyang and Sabine work on the ship. Sabine flies the ship directly into the two TIEs before crashing to the ground. Ezra says this is going to slow them down, but Ahsoka says only if we let it. Ahsoka's entire mindset and attitude regarding this mission has changed, and I'm really appreciative of that. Again, that World Between Worlds episode with Anakin is what that episode was for, was to see Ahsoka kind of get mentally back in the right mindset, to be a master to Sabine, to be around these younger people that could probably frustrate her. it's just very good character development, character growth from this season regarding Ahsoka, and that's what all of that was about. All right, well, Enoch then reports the events that have transpired to Thrawn. Thrawn believes this is an acceptable outcome. To ensure their successful departure is to prepare for ground assault immediately. So when I heard that, I was thinking, uh-oh, we're going to get some heavy ground action. And we did. And initially, when the ground action began, I was concerned that, oh, this isn't really that big of a threat, but it becomes pretty thready, if that's even a word. So we'll get to that eventually. But Ahsoka, Ezra, and Sabine ride howlers to progress their mission as Huang chills back with the Noti and works on the ship and declares a solid "May the Force be with you." And then from here, the action just ensues like crazy. Morgan addresses the troopers that the blessing of the Great Mothers will protect them in battle. This group of troopers are volunteers to sacrifice themselves for Thrawn and the Empire to delay the heroes and give them time to live. So I didn't know exactly what it meant when Morgan said that the Great Mothers are going to protect them in battle, but man, I am so glad that we get the protection that they get, because that was so, so, so cool. Really cool stuff here. Just the villainous, evil vibes going on. Just this entire stuff on Peridea is really, really, really cool. All right. Ezra reveals Thrawn found this place and woke up the witches and rebuilt his Star Destroyer. He has never come there before as it wasn't safe on his own. Ahsoka says, let's try to attack by the front door then. So all of this was dialogue set up regarding our boy Thrawn and how Ezra and Sabine and Ahsoka were going to get to them. Obviously, currently the mission is to stop the bad guys at this point from leaving the planet. All right, well, Thrawn then orders to rain hellfire among or upon our heroes as he says that they won't negotiate with the apprentice of Anakin Skywalker. Again, another Anakin Skywalker name drop. Very important to me. It just kind of encapsulates this entire story because he's such a meaningful piece, an integral part of Ahsoka's journey. The heroes then attempt to open the front gate using the Force. They are successful, but I have no clue how they were successful in avoiding the hellfire. I don't know how that didn't kill them, but whatever. It is what it is. It is what it is. Well, then Thrawn orders to dispatch the night troopers, and he will then inform the Great Mothers that it is time. It is time to depart. It is time for their journey to begin. All right, continuing on with our heroes. Ahsoka, Ezra, and Sabine are using their lightsabers to deflect the troopers' blasts. Ahsoka notices Sabine is struggling and orders her to use her blasters instead. Ezra and Ahsoka go hard together. They eventually wipe all the troopers out. The action here was so cool. So cool. It was so cool seeing technically four lightsabers being utilized all at once. 3 Force users, 3 Jedi working together all at once was something special to see. Something special to see. Well, the 3 Great Mothers get back in the action here next. They use their magic to make all the troopers that Ahsoka, Ezra, and Sabine just wiped out come back to life as an army of undead zombie troopers, essentially, is what they become. Ezra says this is new. None of them are dying from blaster fire or saber slices, and the 3 are able to close themselves off momentarily by sealing a door. This was like fan fiction come to life. This is stuff that we have dreamed of and thought of for so long. Like, are they ever going to get that trippy? Are they ever going to get that wild? And they did. And this entire scene, these entire moments where these three are trying to fight off these troopers screamed Call of Duty zombies to me. Like you're just trying to get behind a door, seal it for a moment. Then you kill them some more, you slice them some more, you try to get behind another door, you seal it for a moment before more of them start coming. All of that was so cool to me. I was really digging it. Now, sometimes you could tell it's heavy on the CGI here and there a little bit for me. Maybe it was just me. Maybe it was just something I noticed. Maybe it was a TV setting of mine. I don't know. But something here, like, yes, the the theme of the scene felt like a video game, but sometimes it may have even looked a little video gamey for me, but nothing to take me out of the scene for me personally. But the great mothers using magic there, creepy. But the Night Sisters, the witches, all of that throughout season one, and especially here in the finale, landed so well, so well. Okay. The Chimera latches onto the Eye of Sion and is ready to depart. Thrawn says the Jedi are on pace to be on the ship when they depart, so they need a little bit more time. Thrawn departs by saying for the Empire, but Morgan then whispers for Dathomir. I didn't really know what was going on there. Now, I think at the end of it all, Morgan is just declaring that her true loyalty lies with the Night Sisters, with the Great Mothers, with the Dathomiri lore and ways, which she just kind of pledged to a creed earlier in this episode. So that definitely makes sense. Like her or any of the Great Mothers, none of their loyalties lie with the Empire. Thrawn, you can say it all you want to, but at the end of the day, the Great Mothers are simply just using you, Thrawn, to get back to Dathomir. That's all that's going on here. But they're saying for the Empire to get what they want. And that was Morgan declaring that and making that obvious to us as the viewer. Yes, she'll listen to you, Thrawn, by saying for the Empire, but whenever she's alone, she'll reveal herself as, no, it's really for Dathomir, for us, for my people, for my ancestors. So I like that. I like that they finally showed that Morgan and really the rest of them don't necessarily get fully along with Thrawn. They're just using each other and using each other well here, honestly. Okay, let's see. The troopers break through. So the troopers are still trying to chase after Ahsoka, Ezra, Sabine. They're doing a good job of getting away from them momentarily. The troopers break through, and our heroes come face to face with Morgan. Ahsoka orders the other two to go ahead without her, and she will take care of Morgan, and the two begin dueling. The duel between Ahsoka and Morgan is top tier. I know we've seen them duel before in The Mandalorian Season 2, but that does not touch this. Like, Morgan is fresh on the witch batch. She has totally turned into a Night Sister. She is feeling herself, and these two just go at it, and it was so cool. And, of course, Ahsoka's having to deal with the Death Trooper zombie what are the sister what night troopers. There we go, that's what I was looking for. She's trying to deal with the night troopers as well. Just great action all around. And Ezra and Sabine also have to deal with some night troopers, but they're like night death troopers. There's too many adjectives for troopers now, guys. This is getting crazy. Like, we got these super troopers, we got these death troopers, we've got these scout troopers, we've got the normal troopers, we've got it all. We've got it all. I love it. I eat it up. But even like Ezra and Sabine, they have to face it looks like one of the death troopers from Rogue One, but zombie mode. And you can even see its face. Ooh, its face was weird. And that's what I kind of imagined the face of Enoch being like, if I'm being honest. Like an old, disgusting, rotting away face. But anyway, back to the episode. Ezra and Sabine engage with two super troopers. See, super troopers. There's another word that I have here in the notes. Thrawn and the Great Mothers board the Eye of Sion. So we finally get the shot it was like the first shot that we saw of Thrawn in a trailer, and it was actually from the finale. So that's actually kind of wild that they showed Thrawn the first time that way. Anyway, Thrawn and the Great Mothers board the Eye of Sion and order the droids to take them out. Sabine and Ezra are getting worked by these troopers. Sabine is able to use the Force to bring her lightsabers to her and take a trooper out. Ezra does the same thing and slices its head off. Okay, so Sabine using the Force here in a big way. In a big way. And that was something that, we had talked about throughout this season, that they were going to do the breadcrumbs, that they were going to increase her Force ability a little bit here and there, a little bit here and there, slowly until we got to the finale. And they did just that. They stuck to it. Here in the finale, not only does she use the Force here, but she uses the Force in a minute as well. Okay, let's see. Did I already address where Thrawn orders to take out the fortress? I don't think I have. I don't think we're quite there yet. This episode had a lot going on, folks. Like, I feel like this breakdown itself, we're just having to like bounce around here, there, and everywhere. But I love it. I love it. And it's just going to give us so much to talk about next week and really the rest of this podcast too. Anyway, okay. Let's see. The Eye of Sion begins to take off as Ahsoka gets surrounded by Morgan and the zombie troopers. Ezra force jumps to get into the Chimera with the help of a Sabine force push, so an even cooler force ability potentially used there, depending on your opinion. Sabine then hesitates with jumping onto the Chimera as she sees Ahsoka being heavily challenged, but she seemingly carries through with the plan, and that was seemingly carries through with the plan. Ahsoka has one of her lightsabers destroyed by Morgan. The troopers stop and watch the two fight, which that was kind of weird. Like, why would they stop? Why wouldn't they engage and help Morgan kill Ahsoka? But I guess it's one of those like honor things, like maybe because Morgan is engaged in this fight. Maybe it's got to be her that's got to wipe Ahsoka out. Who knows? It seems that Ahsoka has been left alone when suddenly Sabine reveals she stayed behind and begins killing the troopers, which gives Ahsoka a new burst of energy as she engages with Morgan yet again. Ahsoka disarms Morgan and slices her with her saber and the Talzin saber. Now, I'm curious and I need a refresher. I might go back and watch some Clone Wars now because we're going to have to wait for season 2 of Ahsoka. I'm assuming Ahsoka holds on to that blade of Talzin, and I can't remember if it's possible for Ahsoka to still activate that blade. I don't know if it has to be used by a witch in order to be usable, if you will, or if Ahsoka's going to be able to have that in her tool bag moving forward. Because now Ahsoka only has one saber, and she's used to fighting with two at this point in her Jedi career. Maybe it would be wild if she used one lightsaber and one blade of Talzin. That would be an interesting shot every time that we saw her use it. I don't think she's going to end up using that, but I think it's just interesting that Ahsoka was able to take out Morgan with both her lightsaber and the blade of Talzin. That was very cool, very interesting. Well, then suddenly the Great Mothers sense Morgan's death, and Thrawn says she has done what was required. Ezra bums off of a trooper's comms to get a heads up of reinforcements coming to his area. Ahsoka and Sabine get out of the action by leaping onto their ship that Huyang has now fixed. In the meantime, though, and here it is, this is what I was thinking of earlier. In the meantime, Thrawn orders controls to bombard the fortress, which the Great Mothers do not appreciate. Again, another moment where we see that the Great Mothers, the witches, aren't necessarily all in on Thrawn. They are simply just using him to get their own mission accomplished, to get their own mission done. That was interesting. I thought maybe there was going to be like a turn there by the witches, and maybe they were going to start like going at Thrawn or something along those lines. I'm glad it didn't go that route because obviously I'm a massive Thrawn fan. Like, I want all of Thrawn, so give me Thrawn any chance you can. Season 2 in the movies, even in The Mandalorian. Who knows? Who cares? I just want him any chance Any chance that you can give them to me? So I'm glad that didn't happen, but it was something that I could see happening. I can see moving forward in maybe a season 2 or in the movie or whenever they want to continue the story. I could see the witches turning on Thrawn, starting to clash heads a little bit once they realize that they have two completely different motives. But what say you? What do you think? Do you think that's a possibility? You think that there's something going down between the Great Mothers and Thrawn eventually? We'll see. We'll see. Well, the Eye of Sion has made it to space, and Thrawn contacts Ahsoka and commends her for her efforts. He says he knows her because he knew her master. He concluded her strategies would have been similar. He wonders just how similar she will become to Anakin. He believes perhaps this is where a Ronin such as her belongs. Thrawn declares victory and a long live the Empire before they leap into hyperspace. Okay, so that all felt like a massive rush, but it worked. The pacing up to this point, because really, and let me look at my notes here just to quickly check this before I say it. Yeah, that moment really like finalized season 1 of Ahsoka, in my opinion, because the rest of the episode is setting up future stories, and we'll talk about that in a second. So yeah, that moment where they separate, where they take off, that was the end of this story. That was the end of the season 1 story that we've been watching up to this point. What a fast-paced, just and it just feels like it with the way that I ran through that breakdown. What a fast-paced, probably 35 minutes there, because these last few notes were probably anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. So probably more so the 35 minutes there of all of that action that I just ran through. Like, so much cool stuff happened here. So much cool stuff happened. Now, I'm going to talk about something, though, that, and so far everything that I've talked about, I really enjoyed. I'm going to talk about something that is throwing me off, though, and maybe you agree with me, maybe you don't. Maybe you can talk me off of this point in the comments if you're on YouTube, or just reach out to me on Twitter at Mando Talk if you want to continue this conversation as well. I don't know how I'm currently feeling about the fact that Ezra and Ahsoka and Sabine have just switched places. Like, yes, they brought Ezra home, but at what cost? Like, Ahsoka is the better Jedi between the two. And so now our heroes have lost Ahsoka, and Ezra has just switched places with them. And on top of that, Thrawn is home. Thrawn is in the galaxy. So you've downgraded a little bit in the Jedi that you've got going on here in our galaxy with the New Republic, while also bringing the threat to you. So this is just a massive L in regards to our heroes and the state of the galaxy, which makes sense, though, and that's something that I wanted, though. So I'm kind of going at this 50-50. Like, I wanted Thrawn to get a win, don't get me wrong, and that was so necessary. It was totally needed for Thrawn to get the win here in Season 1, and he does. So they check the box there with that, in my opinion, because, I mean, he's here in a big, massive way. But I guess I'm just feeling a little, at the moment, I'm feeling a little unsatisfied with how it went down. Like, I thought maybe it was possible for somehow Ahsoka and Sabine, like, latching onto their hyperspace lane of the Eye of Sion and able to travel back to the galaxy that way. I don't know if that would work, though. Probably the most logical thing to happen happened. Let's be real. It's just a very unfortunate circumstance that now, after all these years that we've spent wondering, okay, where are Ezra and Thrawn at? We finally find them, but now Ahsoka and Sabine are right where Ezra and Thrawn have been all those years. And so now it's just kind of like, okay, cool, we've switched places. Thrawn's now to the main galaxy. We can probably continue the story of the big bad of Thrawn being in the main galaxy and in the main timeline over there, I reckon. But now there's all of these can of worms that have been opened on Peridia that I don't know how we're going to tackle. I'm assuming Ahsoka season 2, but I'm wondering, okay, how are we going to get them back into the mix for the Filoni movie and for the rest of the Mandoverse and stuff like that? So I guess that kind of naturally segues us then to talk about the rest of this episode, where it kind of sets up future storytelling. Well, Ahsoka and Sabine return back to the Noti. Ahsoka sees Morai in the distance. Okay, freak out session. All right, let me do a little breakdown with this. Again, if you haven't seen animation, Morai, let me try to explain this in simplest terms. Morai is like an owl that is essentially like right there with Ahsoka on every single journey that she makes. Now, Morai, though, is resembling the daughter of, the daughter of Mortis. You've got the father, you've got the son, you've got the daughter. The daughter of Mortis dies in the Mortis arc in the Clone Wars, and she kind of becomes this owl symbol and lives inside this owl, and then therefore kind of just journeys with Ahsoka the rest of her journey. So it was really cool to see her. There's just a quick, super simple explanation of Morai, this owl that's watching Ahsoka from a distance. If you haven't seen Clone Wars, again, I know if you've seen Clone Wars Rebels, there's more to it than that, obviously. I think it's highly important. Clearly, season 1 of Ahsoka, I felt like it was vital to watch Rebels heading into it. I now feel like heading into season 2 of Ahsoka, it is going to be vital for everyone to watch the Mortis arc from Clone Wars. So there's some homework. I would say this. Just go ahead and make the Clone Wars the entire show homework if you haven't seen it already. That may be something to check out. Put that on your radar. Watch it if you haven't seen it already. But anyway, yeah, that was a really cool freak out moment for me whenever we saw that owl off in the distance. Shin then arrives. Okay, Shin kind of gets her final moments. She arrives at a nomad camp with her lightsaber ignited. I didn't really know what was going on here, but it seems like she is wanting to lead these people, and she's going to do her own thing at this point. But Baylan is still here. We can go ahead and talk about him. Baylan is chilling cliffside on a monument, like a cliff, that looks like the father of Mortis as he looks out into the distance. Now, doing even more dive here. Where Baylan is at, you can see the father there, and to the right of the father, if you're looking on screen, if you're looking at it in the episode, but if you're the father monument, the son is to the left. That's what I'm trying to say. But if you're looking at it on screen, on the right of the screen is the son. And then even on the left is the daughter, but the daughter's head is cut off. What's going on with that? That is wild. So clearly, Baylan is trying to connect with that trio, the father, the son, the daughter. He views them as his avenue to get back to the beginning, to break this wheel, to break this repeated pattern that continues to happen in the galaxy. And I'm assuming potentially, maybe the world between worlds does have something to do with it. And then I would also even question, how does the father, the son, the daughter connect to the Night Sisters, to the Great Mothers? Because this Peridia is their ancient homeworld. So how do they connect? How is all of this connected? I am dying to know. That reminds me of another criticism that I have of this finale. I came into this finale with questions, and I'm leaving the finale with those same questions and even more questions. So I have questions unanswered abound, which is going to give, again, next week when me, DJ, and Zach are here talking, there's going to be so much for us to talk about and to speculate about, to argue about, to debate about, to have fun about. So again, make sure you're back next week's podcast episode. It's going to be a really good one. But yeah, so much right here. So much right here. Shin arriving at a nomad camp. Lightsaber ignited. Don't know what's going on with that other than she's like all in, like, yeah, I'm going to lead you. You're my people. Let's go. So that was very interesting. Baylan chilling on cliffside, looking out, clearly trying to look for this connection with the father, the son, the daughter of Mortis. What's going on there? I don't know. But one thing that was severely lacking in this finale, too, was Balin and Shin. I was dying to see, okay, when are they going to get in the mix? And they got in the mix in these final 5 minutes, setting up what's to come with these characters. But of course, then again, that puts us in another interesting situation because unfortunately, Ray Stevenson has passed. He's the actor for Balin Skull. So how do they address that? What do we do? Is it part of season 2 of Ahsoka? Is it a completely separate story? I don't know. But I do think we're in for a Shin and Balin reunite at some point because they are still on the same planet. I do think that's very much so in play. Again, it's just up to them on where they tell that story because of the unfortunate passing of Ray Stevenson. Do you recast? Do you make the role minor and do deep fake stuff like you've been doing? Who knows? Who knows? And I'm just going to leave that up to the people that make all the big bucks to make that decision. Okay, moving on. Thrawn has returned to our galaxy. Thrawn has returned to our galaxy and is approaching Dathomir with a massive amount of cargo of those tubes in his ship. Or maybe they've even landed on Dathomir at that point whenever they show all of these tubes. Insane. Don't know what's going on with that. Maybe it's former troopers. Maybe it's ancient dead Night Sisters. Maybe Thrawn's going to have a massive army of witches at his disposal. Who knows? That was wild. I'm dying to get more. Balin's shuttle then arrives at Home 1, and a trooper walks out with his hands up. Chopper approaches and can tell it's Ezra from the touch. Ezra removes his helmet. Hera looks on with heavy emotions, and that's all we got. I was very bummed that we didn't get a hug. We didn't get anything like that, but you can tell they're eventually going to hug. They're going to have that emotional moment, but I really wanted to see it, and I really wanted Zeb to be there, if I'm being honest. I wanted Zeb to maybe just be at Home 1 for just a random reason to check in. I know he's off training recruits, but maybe he should have been there just checking in with Hera, and it happened to be that Ezra showed up too. That would have been a really cool reunion, but it seems like we wouldn't have even seen them fully have the reunion anyway because they just cut the scene before there was any hugging or anything like that. What's going on with that? Ugh, that irks me, but it's okay, I guess. It's not okay. Give me the hug. Give me all the emotions. I want to weep like a girl. I want to. I want to weep. I want to have emotional damage. And it was right there for the taking. And it didn't happen. It didn't happen. But it's okay. It's not okay. I keep saying it's okay. It's not okay. Anyway. Okay. Final moments. Ahsoka tells Sabine she did well. Sabine is focused on Thrawn getting away, but Ahsoka thanks her for Ezra getting home. Again, showing the growth of Ahsoka, realizing that saving Ezra was all worth it. Ahsoka knows Ezra got home and says he is where he needs to be, and she believes they are too. She tells Sabine it is time to move on. Sabine looks out into the distance and hesitates and feels something and declares it to be shadows in a starlight. Ahsoka looks out, smiles, music swells, she walks away, and we see Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker as your traditional Force ghost. And cut. There's the season. That's it. That wraps it up. And I do want to point out too, like the connections, the poetry, if you will. Season, what is it? I don't know the seasons of Clone Wars off the top of my head. But whenever we see Ahsoka walk away from the Jedi Temple and Anakin's looking on, this screamed parallel because we see Anakin's Force ghost watching Ahsoka walk on to her next journey. The emotions. It's all right there. Weeping. Emotional damage. Right there. They did a great job with this one, though. I tip of the cap to this. Anytime Anakin shows up, Hayden Christensen's Anakin shows up, I'm all in. All in it, on it with the emotions. There it is. There's the season. I am interested to see, though, maybe this Force Ghost Anakin appearance makes you feel different about the Anakin that we see in episode 5 of this season. And that'll be something that'll be interesting to talk about next week. Like, does that make us think that Anakin in episode 5 wasn't a Force ghost? Or do we still think that that was Anakin as a Force ghost, just using different abilities in that sense? Or maybe it was all part of Ahsoka's imagination, kind of like what I initially theorized. But then I kind of updated that theory, thinking that it was kind of a mixture of Force Ghost and all in Ahsoka's head, which doesn't mean it's not real or anything like that. That's something that that's something that I talked about heavily. I don't know. There's a lot to talk about. Like I said, I came into this finale with questions. I'm leaving this finale with even more questions, which is cool. There's a lot for us to talk about. There's a lot for us to chew on until we get a second season, until we get a continuation of this story. And of course, Mando Talk will be right here for that continuation, for us to continue to talk about. All right, that does it. There's the breakdown. Ahsoka, Part 8, The Jedi, The Witch, The Warlord, directed by Rick Famuyiwa, written by Dave Filoni. Okay, I said off the top that maybe talking through this was going to help me get a rating. I'm going to have to go probably like an 8.8 out of 10. I don't feel as satisfied with this one as I was hoping, just because there's so many question marks going on inside of my brain at the moment. But maybe I feel different about that next week. So I'll leave that there. 8.8 out of 10 for me currently. What's your rating? Let me know down in the comments if you're on YouTube. Tweet at me at Mando Talk on Twitter. Follow me on TikTok at Casual Geek Clips for more from me. I'll be posting some YouTube shorts probably coming soon. Those are going to start cranking out a lot, as maybe the podcast isn't as frequent because there's no new show or no new movie or no new content to talk about. So those YouTube shorts are really going to become a frequent thing. So make sure you hop over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you're not on YouTube at the moment, the YouTube link is down in the description. So check that out. I would greatly appreciate it. We have passed 400 subscribers on YouTube, so give my lovely audience a round of applause for that. I am so thankful for that. Covering this season has been a blessing, but I very much so look forward to next week. It's going to be great to have the boys back on to talk about this thing in all of its glory, and I'll leave it at that. There's the breakdown. There's this week's episode of Mando Talk. I'll see you next week. Don't miss it. You do not want to miss it. It's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun whenever we're able to get back together. All right, let me get out of here. Let me know what you thought of this episode. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Catch you on the next one being next week. And until then, as always, we have spoken.